From virtual to Zirtual to virtual again. Meet my entrepreneurial friend, Maren Kate Donovan. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 182nd episode of the Inbound Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host, and I wanted to remind you that if you missed last week's episode with Mr. Harry Campbell, the rideshare guy, be sure to check that out. He, in a matter of a couple of years, generated enough business, enough income, enough revenue to quit his engineering job. He just graduated in 2009 as an engineer, so that is saying something. He is generating 500,000 page views per month, talking about things like Lyft and Uber. So check out what he is up to, because that is a smart dude. And this week we have a smart gal, Maren Kate Donovan. I met her online. I actually paid her to do some virtual VA stuff for me years ago. She turned that into a big business, and that big business imploded dramatically last fall, but she has bounced back. So I wanted to make sure we had her on so you can hear her story of how she grew, how she handled this adversity, and how she's fighting back, because that is the key. You know, you've got to keep going no matter what happens. So I think you will love her story. And if you want to get a little help growing your own business in a semi-private setting, check out The Five. So the5.us. That's a new program I'm working on. You know, Jim Rohn always says that you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So I'm rolling out this to bring in 5 motivated entrepreneurs for 2 days, 3 nights to come hang with me and grow your business. So again, check that out at the5.us. And now let's bring on Miss Maren Kate Donovan. All right. Long distance friends and fellow entrepreneur, Maren Kate Donovan, all the way from San Francisco. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the show. And before I dive into my history and how I found you online and then stumbled across you in San Francisco on a random street during the day, everybody, it was totally fun. Would you mind taking a minute or two, kind of tell everybody about yourself, your history, and we'll dive down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of got into the wonderful world of entrepreneurship in college. I was reading a Wall Street Journal article that I probably borrowed from the library or something, and it was talking about eBay, and this was probably 11 years ago, and I was just fascinated by the fact that you could kind of pick something up and resell it. So I started an eBay business, and it was actually selling mystical jewelry online. And I did that for several years. And from there, I started exploring different stuff. And I did everything from social media marketing and building web presences for some brands in Las Vegas, which is where I'm from. Probably the largest client I had in that business was the Pawn Stars, which is a History Channel show.
Oh, nice.
That was really, really popular for a few years. And I met them in a bar, of course, in Vegas, and did their social media and web presence for a few years. And from that, just got into a bunch of different things and was always trying something new. And then about 5 years ago, I moved from Reno, Nevada to San Francisco to take a little virtual assistant business that I was trying out on my blog and try to, make it go big. And so that's what I did for the last 5 years up until last fall. And now I'm kind of in the position where I'm starting again from scratch, but this time in a very different arena.
Very cool. So what are you rolling into now? Is that the Memento Mori Society?
Yeah. I actually, sorry, I just got a bunch of noise. Do you want to?
People come walking in behind you. How rude.
Yeah, I know.
Don't
right?
they know you're on an interview?
I know.
With the Sales Whisperer?
So, yeah, what I decided to do was probably like a lot of people, from when I was pretty young and new into the whole business world, I would come up with the idea for a product, start the product, and then I would find a market for it and like just try to, try all sorts of different things to market, to sell, to whatever. And this time instead, I'm so sorry. This is so loud. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Hey. Better. Okay.
Right.
So, the gist would be that you create a product and then you find a market, and usually the hardest part is the product market fit. So this time, coming off of building Zirtual into a relatively, large business from what I originally had it, I was trying to think, like, is there a way to hack the system? Is there a way to take a lot of the pain and angst of when you really early on put together something? And the way I figured out to do that was, or the way I'm trying, so we'll see if this works, is instead of building one product and looking for the fit, I was thinking, like, how about we, like me personally, find an arena I'm really interested in, an arena that hits some specific check boxes. And then say, instead of committing to one product or offering right off the bat, say, hey, I'm committing to this genre of work, and I'm going to look for the different opportunities within it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm doing. And the site I have right now is called the MementoMoriSociety.com. And the goal of it is just to build awareness around the fact that, we're all human, we're all mortal, we're all going to die. And people, especially in the U.S., tend to almost kind of avoid that. And our hypothesis is that if you face death, if you face your mortality, you actually live a fuller life. So the kind of genre that I'm sticking a claim in is the end of life arena. I think it's, woefully underserved. I think there's a ton of room for improvement in a lot of different services. And I think it's a business area that most people just don't want to touch because it's considered morbid or depressing or something like that, whatever it may be. So that's kind of a long-winded way of how I've gotten here.
Well, I met with a guy the other day. He tried to sell me a coffin, and I told him that's the last thing I'll ever need.
Wow. Why did he try to sell you a coffin?
It's a joke. It's the last thing I'll ever need. You get it?
Oh, I get it.
Oh, come on. Don't make me. All right, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to cut this out, and you just laugh, okay? All right. So we're going to jump into that, but I want to go back and follow this story a little bit more. Kind of how you got into things, because I like the details, because a lot of people will tell their story, but there's the little things that are the roadblocks. The little things become the big roadblocks from people getting started. So you found eBay, and then did you keep that just as a virtual business? Were you just working from home? Did you have a staff? I mean, how big did you get that?
With eBay, up until only with Zirtual in San Francisco did I ever have offices. Okay. I've always worked remotely. When I was doing eBay, I had a few virtual assistants, people that lived in the Philippines, I think one guy that lived in India, and they would help with certain projects, but it was mostly web development and sometimes with specific listing stuff. But for the most part, I just, did it myself from my dorm room in UNR, which is the university in Reno, and one of my best friends helped me for a while too, but it was very low key.
Was it ever like your full-time business, or was it just a side?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, for several years, it was my full-time business. And when I turned 21, I had been doing it for about 2.5 years at that point. And I think I really missed the idea of working with people. So I actually got into bartending at 21, and I would bartend, I would go to college, and I would also run my eBay businesses on the side.
Good grief.
So it was really fun.
And so you did that for how long? I was taking some notes here.
I did that off and on for probably four or 5 years.
Okay. And so then what caused you to make the shift? Because then you got into social media marketing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think with eBay, and when you're selling, physical products, there were a lot of things, but the long and short of it is when you're selling physical products, like it takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. It's very repetitive, and it's one of those things where it was always me. I had to go source the product. I had to take pictures. I had to write the stories. And I just got kind of tired of it. And I really was like, there's got to be a way to do business where I am not directly tied into every product we sell. So that's when I started getting really interested in just the concept of internet business. And this was around the time that the 4-Hour Workweek came out and some different books started coming out really talking about launching internet businesses. And I just dove into that and learned as much as I could, and decided like the thing I would try was like social media marketing and building out websites for different businesses, just because I didn't know necessarily how to do it myself, but I knew how to hire people online to build out these things and manage my little outsourced team.
Right.
So that's what I went.
So were you making sales in person, though, like with the Pawn Stars, or was it all remote? So
my sales were all in person. I did them in Las Vegas and Reno. I would go and honestly, I would meet people at bars. I found it was the best place. You go to a happy hour at a bar that's near a business side of town, and then you just, sit there and chat people up. And it was still so new. The idea of social media marketing and having like a strong web presence was still so new then, that pretty much I could just start talking to somebody, tell them what I did, and 9 out of 10 of them would not have, an optimized web experience or even know what it was. Right. So that's how I got my clients. And then how I served them was all through building out plans and having my outsourced team and myself execute on it.
How did you know what to charge?
I just made it up.
Just keep raising your prices till somebody balked?
Yeah, I remember the first website build out that I quoted. Like I just was like, I read somewhere in some old book about, like valuing your time and your effort. So I remember being like, it's going to be $3,000. And when they said, okay, like I was so shocked. But then of course, like now I look at people who build websites, especially professionally in San Francisco, like firms that build out web identities, and it's, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. And I'm now building all my websites on Squarespace. I've been incredibly impressed by how easy it is to build. And I'm super non-technical, but I can do 80% of the work myself, and then just hire someone on Upwork to kind of do some of the other stuff. And then I can host my blog on WordPress, which is great. So, it's kind of crazy.
So why are you, because I love Squarespace as well, but why are you blogging on WordPress instead of Squarespace?
I find WordPress a lot more robust in the terms of just what you can do on the back end and the analytics. Okay. Granted, I haven't dug into Squarespace's blogging platform that much, but unless I'm missing something, it wasn't as intuitive to me as WordPress. So, and I've also had my blog for, probably like 7 years at this point, and it's always been on WordPress, and I'm not really tempted to change.
Because I just moved my website. I mean, I was on WordPress for 7 or 8 years as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, almost 800 posts, 200 pages, and I moved it all to HubSpot.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. HubSpot. We worked with that with Zirtual, and it was really good. We did that with some sales stuff.
Yeah, I'm loving it, but I do like Squarespace for its simplicity.
The design part is amazing.
So, what do you do when people click on the blog? It just takes them to another, like a subdomain, or just a whole separate domain?
That's what I'm going to do right now with any Squarespace site. They're still on the Squarespace blog, but I'm hiring a developer on Upwork to set that up at that subdomain.
Okay. All right. So you're building that business, and was it still just you? And then you were looking to grow, and that's what made the move to San Francisco and Zirtual?
Yeah. Well, I was living in Reno, and I had several different little internet businesses, and social media web development was getting more and more competitive, and there were just a lot of people that knew it a lot better than I did, and I realized that. So I was trying out other stuff, and one thing that people always asked me about is how I used my virtual team, how I hired them, how I built them out. So I started selling on escapingthe9to5.com, just this simple package that allowed people to get a virtual assistant. I'd place them with a virtual assistant, and it got so popular that one day I was reading a newspaper, and I saw some post about an incubator in San Francisco called Founders Institute, and just like on a lark, I signed up for it. And I was like, if they let me in, I'm going to pack all my stuff into a backpack and go to San Francisco for a month and do this program and just see where it leads me. And that was just that was how it started.
Very cool. And so you had a, shall we say, interesting trajectory with Zirtual?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you mean by interesting.
Well, across the board is interesting. I mean, you had a big growth, and then you hit a big roadblock, right? I mean, came crashing down. Has the pain subsided enough you can talk about it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I talked about it even when it hadn't. But I mean, the gist was that we built the company for 2 years, very bootstrapped, and then we decided to take on money. And then from there, we continued to grow really fast, but we needed to continue to take on money because we moved from independent contractors to W-2s, to employees.
Yep.
And we had to hire out, to maybe about 2 months out of like when we would need it. And as you get bigger and bigger, that means your payroll gets bigger and bigger. So when you hit a point where for whatever reason you can't raise more money, or your unit economics aren't as ironed out as they should be because we had an outsourced finance team,
yep.
Everything just kind of implodes. So that's more or less what happened.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, what would you do different?
I would hire a finance person the moment we raised our first round of funding. I would have hired somebody very well. I would have spent most of my time finding a really good finance person, and I never would have outsourced it.
Yeah. What about the shift to employees? Do you still think that was the right move?
It was the only move we could make legally.
Wow.
I mean, just because if you look into independent contractors versus employees, if you look into the way the IRS classifies them, to stay on the right side of the law and to still be able to train and still be able to have a high quality, we had to move to W-2s. If there had been a third way, that would have been by far the best.
Right.
But either we would have had to really change the service and really sacrifice a lot of the quality, if we wanted to stay if we want to stay 1099.
Right. So did you bring everyone in-house, like under one roof, or were they still virtual?
No, they were still completely virtual.
But did they have to like use your portal or something, or do things a certain way, and that's why they had to be employees?
No, it's that if you want to train people and you want to be able to continue to quality check their work and to have them in a management structure where they're reporting to someone, where, you're making sure they follow the company standards, you have to do that.
Oh, got you. So you grew really fast, and then the funding didn't work. And then, I was following you online, and I mean, of course, people on the internet, because they're all remote and they can't see your eyeballs, are just the biggest meanie heads in the world, to put it nicely, right? Mm-hmm. And, so I'm just as interested in how you weathered the storm, because, it was a big storm, at least from the outside looking in, it looked like a big storm. And you seem to have bounced back quickly and well.
Yeah, I think the best way to deal with it is just, first of all, I don't read anything. I decided when everything was going down that I wasn't going to read any press, good or bad. And then from there, just understanding that, people don't, I don't know. I think if anything, it taught me a really big lesson in compassion. Yeah. Because I know that in the past I've been very hard on people, not people I know, but just reading something and being very hard on like, well, they should have done it differently. And this has just really taught me that, there's a ton more to most stories that people just don't see. And yeah, at the end of the day, you just kind of shake it off, as Taylor Swift said.
Very cool. Have you had any problems like reconnecting with people, or are people are they judging you and don't want to do deals with you, or have you found most people kind of get it, as long as you weren't being, intentionally deceptive or something, or like, hey, it's just there's a bad break in business and let's go build something else?
Most people that understand and that are business people or, entrepreneurs understand, and those are the only people that, matter in the business world. So I would say everybody generally has been pretty receptive and kind. Yeah,
that's cool. So you're rebuilding, and then what pulled you in to the dealing with death industry? That just seems like a big move. Was it kind of like how you got started back on eBay? You found a need? Did you stumble across this and oh my gosh, this is an underserved area? Or?
Yeah, it really was. I just stumbled across it and found it was an underserved area. And I had gone through the death of both grandparents. I went through what felt like the death of a company. And it just very much called to me. I can't even explain fully why, but it's absolutely a fascinating arena in my mind. And the biggest part is just like with Zirtual, it helps people. It really helps people. It helps people that are really suffering. So, it seems super interesting. And the more I dug into it, the more fascinated I got, and the more broken kind of I realized just the end of life industry is. And there's a lot of people that take advantage of those that are suffering in it. And to me, that was kind of the thing that called the most, is just that there was a lot of ways to help people that are going through a death.
Right. So how do you monetize something? People that are listening to this, a lot of them are still W-2 employees. They're looking for ideas, or they're new in business, maybe making a profit, but certainly working harder than they want to make that profit. So what advice would you have for them to monetize an idea?
It's the sad part about it is it's the traditional advice, the same thing as everything, which is just you need to create something people really want, and you need to charge for it. I would say to monetize an idea, try doing the opposite of building something and then finding a market. Try finding a market that really, wants X, and then build something specifically for that market. Yeah. That's a much better way to go. And that means a lot of times it's not going to be your first idea. It's not going to be your 10th idea. It's going to be, you're going to go through a lot of iterations. And kind of persistence, that's the biggest aspect. Persistence and just, having thick skin. I think people underestimate how tough it is to be in business and how tough it is to be an entrepreneur. But you really have to be wildly optimistic. You have to be able to be very persistent. You also have to be able to, weather a lot of failure and a lot of blows. And even starting again, like I am now, I forgot kind of what it was like, the struggle and the hustle of the very, very beginning. And it's super rough. And it just reminds me that, there's a long hard dip and there's a long desert, there is not such a thing as getting rich quick. Or even getting, to profitability quick. It usually takes a hustle. So I would say that's kind of the best advice. There's really no specific advice. It's good I found it was really beneficial to read books and autobiographies and interviews by very successful people, because you can tend to pick up patterns and, go from there. But it's different for every person.
So, I mean, did you have some savings, as you dove into this? Did you get a partner to help fund this?
No, nope. I am doing it completely from the ground up. I'm pretty much exactly where I was when I started my first businesses. So it's kind of interesting. There's a book called The Power of Broke. It's by Damon Johns.
Sure.
And I really was pretty impressed by the point of it and everything. And I think there's a ton of stuff that people are genuinely they're more creative when they don't have a lot of options. Yeah. Like, I'm building all my sites by myself on Squarespace, and I don't have to hire anyone to do that. And I'm using a site called Cloud Peeps that I'm an advisor to. And I do some advising. I'm going to start doing some consulting and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's going to be very, very scrappy and very hustly. And at first I was a little bit sad about that, but now realizing that that's really my edge, I'm actually kind of excited about it, because I think as people have some level of success, as people get used to, having larger teams, like I had a marketing team, I had different teams I could rely on, but going back to just, one person, a few virtual assistants, like, you really get scrappy again. And it teaches you humility, and it teaches you the things that it's easy to forget as a company grows bigger. So I would say, all in all, it's a big benefit.
So on the Cloud Peep, so that's so you can derive a little income from that.
No. It's not an income thing. I'm saying okay. Cloud Peeps is it's pretty much virtual marketing professionals. So I can hire people for, specific amounts of time for different stuff. So I can have the same benefit as I had when I had a marketing team, but for just a fraction of the price, much more lean, much more. Cool. And that's because, that's what I have to do. Yeah.
So did you write out an elaborate business plan, or you just throw it on a napkin and go?
I don't believe in business plans. Okay. I usually do a one-pager in Google Docs, but actually now I've started a different way, which is I build the website first. I'm a very visual person, so I build the website first in Squarespace, and usually just the process of building out a website answers a ton of the questions that you would have to answer in a business plan or in a one-pager, but with prompts, because you think, okay, if I was looking at this website, what would I click on? How would I get to know this? So building a website is my new, business plan. I've never written a business plan. I've always kind of just started and figured it out as I go, but this has been an amazing little hack I figured out.
So I haven't used Squarespace that much. Does it kind of have a tutorial or like a question kind of process to help you build that out?
No, not at all. I just mean from the aspect of looking at something and saying, if I was a consumer and if I was going to be on this website, how do you build a fully functional website? And then that gets you to answer a lot of questions. Like, you'll come up, okay, well, what's the copy on the about page? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what's the pricing going to be? Okay, when somebody wants to contact, like, what do they do? Where does that go? It leads you down rabbit holes, and it forces you to create all of these different decision trees. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. You get the benefit, too, of being in that world for a while. I know a lot of people, they would struggle with it. A friend of mine he got laid off after many, many years of working with a big tech firm, and now he's going the independent consultant route. And he sent me a link the other day and said, "Hey, here's my website," and it's a GoDaddy website tonight page, and it's just not very good. Where should I send him Have you seen any good online resources or something he can kind of teach himself?
Squarespace has amazing tutorials online.
Oh, good.
Both on their site and if you just Google Squarespace tutorials. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is that people have to be very, very willing to learn. I think my only advantage in life is that I realized pretty early that, I'm not a genius. I'm not there's nothing particularly special outside of the fact that I'm persistent and I'm really willing to learn. Mm-hmm. So I read a ton. I'm constantly learning about the new stuff. I get myself on new tools, even if they seem silly at first. I'm on Snapchat and I'm on all these different things. And I force myself to never plateau on learning. And I think that is my one advantage. And I think the great part is it's an advantage anyone can have. I just think often people don't. Often people think I'm too old or this is too new or I'm whatever it is. This is not my expertise. And I think that is the biggest crippling thing in the world versus just saying, F it. I don't care how old I am. I don't care what kind of career I've had. Just be humble and be I'm going to learn this. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to figure all this out.
Mm-hmm. How do you know how much time to allocate between doing what has always worked and is maybe still working versus peeling off 5 or 10 or 30% of your time to go test Snapchat or Instagram or whatever?
Honestly, I think that's just a question that it's person by person. It's kind of impossible to answer.
I want an exact answer. Okay. If I'm a Sagittarius and I'm left-handed, how much time should I spend on Snapchat? I need definitive answers.
Yeah. I just think people need to just, kind of figure it out. That's the biggest thing. There's so many advice books. There's so many how to become an entrepreneur. There's so many posts. I know in earlier years I've written them too. But at the end of the day, it's so much about people figuring out themselves. One thing I would say is study meditation and study Eastern philosophy. A lot of it talks about when you hit a question, sitting in silence until the answer comes. And I've practiced that, for the last probably 6 months, and it's been pretty shocking, the results. When I hit a roadblock and trying to figure something out, just sitting and not doing anything, not looking at anything, and just letting silence pervade, things start to pop to mind and stuff starts to happen. And it's pretty amazing. It's almost, listening to your little inner voice.
Mm-hmm. Now, while I do that, can I have my kids Snapchat for me and show the world my meditation?
I wouldn't have people show the world your meditation, but you totally can, use things like learn from your kids, have them, do some Snapchats for you, have them. I know a very, very, successful businessman who is a legit billionaire. And one thing that he does is he always is very open to talking to kids and talking to teenagers. And I never understood why until recently. And I get that he actually does that because he wants to know what they know. He wants to know what is up and coming. Mm-hmm. And he's just, he's a constant learner. He's constantly asking questions. He's constantly learning, whether it's the person who, is serving a burger at McDonald's, or it's a teenager, or it's, a person in a nursing home. He's always asking questions. And it's somebody that I've taken a lot of pointers from him, and I do the same thing now.
Right. Yeah. I have a lot of kids, so I see them on Pinterest and I've seen them on Snapchat. And
that's amazing. That's a huge benefit that you have just right there.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about adopting a 15-year-old the other day just to have a teenager who I could ask questions.
Oh, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sub out my kids.
It's a great idea.
Teenagers for hire. Ask a teenager.com. I'm going to see if that's available.
Seriously, that would be a great thing. Some super specific market research.
Look at that. Finally, I find a use for all these kids. This is awesome. All right. I have to end the podcast right now. I have to go to work.
That's a great way.
Oh, that's awesome. So what is do you have some short or midterm goals now for this Memento
Not
Mori?
really. I'm really in the exploring phase. I have a lot of things I'm working on, but I'm keeping them all pretty quiet right now as I figure out exactly what they are. And with Memento Mori, I'm just continuing to publish content with a few other people, and I'll be hosting some dinners. We'll be doing some talks just to get people to, embrace their mortality more and really live life to the fullest by doing that. Right. So it's not Memento Mori isn't a business. It's just more of a community and more of a kind of a mission, a personal mission. And as I explore other end of life offerings, I'm continuing to update that.
Going back to when you were in the middle of the storm of Zirtual, and you talked about not reading the press. I mean, other than that, did you stick to your normal routine? Did you really withdraw and kind of hunker down? Or did you just keep moving forward?
I gave myself a few months off. I promised my boyfriend that I was not going to pursue anything business related until the beginning of the new year. Just because I was pretty burnt out and, was suffering from some health issues because of it. Right. And I just spent a few months reading, traveling, deep breathing, learning meditation, and it was really helpful. And I'm super glad I did it. But I mean, I didn't shy away from anything. I still went on my normal San Francisco life. Yeah.
I've brought that up before, and I've interviewed a lot of military people, and I was in the Air Force, and I remember learning when I was in basic training, basically, or soon after, that the best way to handle an ambush is not to try to run and hide, but to attack it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's kind of what you did.
I could not agree more. I mean, I definitely think that, I am more of in the fight or flight, I'm more of a fight person, which is not necessarily always good. I think there's a third way, and I think that's probably the better way, which is just more being zen and not responding either by running away or by getting angry, but just by being present. But I would definitely say that I forced myself, and other people helped force me many times to just be like, you know what, you got to continue, continue on. And my co-founders dealt with the exact same thing and did similar.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, I guess the one question I've started asking is, picture our listeners, they are on a treadmill, they're on an airplane, they're driving, they can't write anything down. But as soon as they get to a place where they can take action, what would you encourage them to do after listening to this?
I would encourage people to make sure that whatever they're pursuing is what they really want. I think that's the most important thing. I think too often I wrote a blog post on LinkedIn, and it was called The Point of Money. And it was something I was really thinking about after Zirtual. And I think too often people think if I had X dollars, I'd be happy. And that's always not the case. And I know everyone says that, but I've met a lot of people in the past years, and people that are really rich and people that are really poor, and usually against, almost always, the richer they are, the more unhappy they are. And I think that that's not always the case, but I think that people need to make 100% sure that what they're going for right now is what they really want to go for. And if it's not what they really want to go for, then take time to what you want more than anything else than what you think you want. And then once you have that in your mind, then you can start working towards it. But I think most times it's good to reassess if what you're going for is what you really want before you do anything else.
Yeah, the old adage that I was climbing the corporate ladder and I got to the top and I realized it was leaning up against the wrong building.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen that. I've experienced it myself, and I've seen it many times. And I'm, really happy that I'm learning this at just turning 30 than at, 60 or something like that. But I think no matter where you are, it's really worth it to understand that.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, we will have links to everything you mentioned here, including your Maren Kate Twitter and
Great.
Maren K with the number 8 Snapchat. I'm going to have to go find you. I'm playing on Snapchat.
I love Snapchat. I think Snapchat is one of the things for entrepreneurs, like Snapchat stories. It's a very powerful tool to really connect with people on a real way. So it's definitely something for people to check out if they haven't already.
I don't know. Maybe I'm too old.
No, never say that.
I am just not. I mean, I'm doing it, but I'm not drawn to it.
That's fair.
But I'll. All right, I just added you, so maybe you will inspire me. I will achieve Zen-like knowledge from you on Snapchat utilization.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Wes.
All right. Hey, it was great having you on. Great catching up.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Cool story, isn't it? I love what she's talking about, the role of compassion in your life. I love the fact that Maren Kate is fighting back. She hunkered down a bit, it took a little bit of time to basically grieve, lick her wounds, but she's not hiding. She didn't do anything wrong. It was a lesson learned. The company is back up and running. She's just not running Zirtual anymore. But she has plenty to offer the world, so keep an eye on her. She's a cool gal. I actually met her on accident, ran into her in San Francisco when I took my son up a year ago to take a look at his college. And if you're interested in that, check out what Minerva is doing. And very interesting, brand new college. My son will be in the first graduating class. So everything is changing, even higher ed, and it's about time, but I digress. Be sure to listen to this a couple times, as always. A lot of good information there. If you want to see the notes and link to everything on Maren Kate's websites and her blog and Snapchat and Twitter, you can find all those notes at thesaleswhisperer.com/session182. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, check out the5.us, brand new program I'm offering. 5 motivated entrepreneurs come here to SoCal, and let's roll up our sleeves and grow your business quickly. I look forward to meeting you here soon. Again, it's the5.us. And as always, remember to sell different.